Zevi were both in. We went to Costco. And Zevi said, she said, Abba, stop walking around with us. He put me on one of the couches, and he found the book section of, I don't know, I think a book about Babe Ruth. And I just sat there and read the book till they finished their shopping.
Okay, I don't know what you were doing there that you were embarrassing your kids, but
when I was in Neve, I was makabel to hold Chol Yisrael, and the next week I got 10 boxes of Dove Entenmann donuts from my parents.
Okay, but that's very good. That's
I sold them for a nice profit.
There you go. It's not also bahana.
As Chol Stam also bahana.
Depends who you ask. No.
I mean, it certainly wasn't. It certainly wasn't 30 years ago when I was 19.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I don't know if I would have been able to withstand that.
I don't know if I can withstand it now, but I could then.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're on the bottom of Dalet Amud Beis. Yeah, the Da. I'm sorry, not the Da. I just read that in the Musa. So again, we just finished saying a big chiddush. We had two blot of Machlekes Rabba and Rava, right? Rabba said the reason why you need to say why the shliach, the agent, has to say b'fanei nechtam is because we need to make sure it's lishma with a mapik, means in her name, and Rava said it's because we have to make sure that they could confirm the signatures, and the people are not traveling back and forth often enough. That's the so that was the machlokes. And then we said right at the end of the Gemara here yesterday that Rabba holds of Rava. He just has a bonus chumrah, meaning so Rabba holds like Rava that you need to make sure that he says b'fanei nechtam because you need to confirm the get, and in addition to that, we're concerned about lishma, right? So now the Gemara continues to ask kashas on Rava. So Tanan, we're 4 lines up from the bottom. Let's say a guy brings a get from Medina Sayyam and he's not able to say so if there's Eidim on the get, so then you just you be Makayim the get with the signatures, meaning you find people that recognize the signatures, and then that's it. That proves the get. But we were thinking, right? What does it mean that the person, the shliach, is not able to say if you're going to say cheresh, if you're talking about that it's a deaf person, meaning they gave the get to a deaf person to bring to Eretz Yisrael. Cheresh barasuya gitahu. Can a cheresh bring a get? But now we learn the Mishnah. Kol ksherim lavi is a get. Everybody's kosher to bring a get. Chutz min cheresh shoyt of a cotton, except for cheresh shoyt of a cotton. Right? So Rabbi Yosef says, so what can it be possibly talking about that somebody who couldn't open his mouth? No, we're talking about an odd case. Talking about where they gave the get when he was able to talk, right? He became deaf, mute, right? He became mute right after, meaning in middle. He says, "Here's your get," and it was right before he had the ability to say he went mute and he couldn't talk. Right. So nowadays, the end of the story would be he gets a bracha or something, and he miraculously became. It was a miraculous recovery, and he was able to talk. That would be the real end of the story. But that's not the end of the story here. It's just the end of the story is that he couldn't talk, right? So, so that's the case. Whatever it is. So what do you see from this? L'Rava Nicha makes sense according to Rava, right? That the get is okay, even though the shliach couldn't open his mouth. Why? Because you did it by Eidim, which shows that this brisa is concerned with the Eidim part. the Rabbah, but according to Rabbah, it was the kasha is, how do you know it was lishma? Right? Rabbah holds that you need to make sure you know that it's lishma. How's that going to happen? That's not going to help if you confirm the chasimus, if you confirm the signatures. That's not going to help you, right? You need to still have somebody say that it was written lishma, which you don't have because the guy's a mute. So Elamai must be a kasha on Rabbah. That's more answers. Another interesting teretz. It's talking about after the people in Chutz La'aretz became educated. This prize is talking about after they became educated. So since they became educated, therefore, you don't need the reason for Rabbah is no longer applicable, right? So that means that comes out that you have to say, according to this, that this was not a gezerah, right? Because if this was a gezerah, so how do you take back the gezerah just because they became educated? No. I'm saying let's talk in Yom Tov, showering on Yom Tov. So people want to say that nowadays you should be able to shower Yom Tov with Shavuot L'Chol Nefesh.
Yaakov, that's just a plug for Naftali to get those cards ready.
That's right. But yeah, this
Once again, and this time it's Friday into Shabbos.
I've been asking. He said I don't need to.
And laminate them.
Electronically.
Laminate them this time.
The showering cards are borrowing the cards that Yaakov makes how to take a shower on Yom Tov.
Because Rabar and some people don't know how to shower.
I never saw those cards. I have no idea what you're
Oh,
talking
you see?
We'll have to show it to you. We'll have to show
Linus,
it.
mute everybody.
After the
Too many people
tattoo on his
talking. Mute
arm.
them all.
Can you send it to me so I can take care of it tomorrow?
I don't know. I'll give you the cards. I have them sitting here.
You have it electronically? You don't have it electronically.
Well, you can take a shower. You tell them you can take a shower on Shabbos.
Yaakov,
Yeah, based on shower on Yom Tov. Yes, Peretz.
Liner wants a heter to get it tattooed on his arm.
Well, why doesn't he take a shower before Yom Tov? Yom Tov starts Thursday night.
That's for those that want to take showers even on Yom Tov.
But Yaakov, I always assumed those were like a get out of jail free card. I didn't think they actually had to follow.
Now he thinks it's me.
I just assumed you're allowed to take a shower with those cards.
Okay, whatever the cards are, but the point is that the reason why people want to take showers is manazeh.
Kaplan, I have that. I don't need that. I mean the
They
words
say
electronically.
Yes, they say the Metzias changed. They say the Metzias changed, right?
Metzias of what changed?
That people shower every day, so therefore Shavuot L'Chol Nefesh, you should be able to heat up water in order to take a shower on Yom Tov. That's what people want to say, right? But we say no. The takana was a takana, and that's it, finished. So here, according to this, when they made a takana fanei nechta, if they made it as a gezerah, it should last forever. Don't make a difference that they became educated.
Didn't Muksa or something like Muksa start out as much harder takanos, and then they eased back as time? As time went on.
That was the same chachamim. That was the same chachamim that instituted the gezerah.
Meaning they made these gezeras, and then as people became more sensitive to Shabbos, more sensitive to halacha, et cetera, they pulled back some of the chumros that they had on muksa. So we have a precedence that says that you can do such a thing, or that we can change and
No, but that's Simon. You're right. It depends. You have to know how they instituted the takana. Was it instituted as a takana, or was it just a temporary thing? And when it adjusts seasonally, it adjusts. Whatever, not seasonally, but depending on the situation.
Right.
So here we're clearly saying that this was not. Again, I think that this was not.
It's also a difference.
Or the chayra have to be a bezin that was shava b'minyan and chashivas. Even if it makes sense to change the takana, it still has to be that the bezin's chashiv enough that they could be ikra or previous takana.
That's true.
You can't just go ahead and say, well, it looks like it makes sense that it shouldn't be around. Even if a takana loses its time, the din is you can't change the takana if you're not as chashiv as the previous bezin that instituted it.
So in other words, nobody should
gezerah.
be taking showers on Yom Tov, is what you're saying.
Yeah, except when they come up with over the holes nowadays that didn't exist before. So both ways it doesn't make sense in my mind. because somehow they have new inyanim of the dechol that never existed. So
Yeah, but
where
that's
do we
not a
draw the
takana.
line when it comes to
Steve, that's not a
parameters?
takana. That's not a takana.
It's not a
Not a-
deraisa.
Not a deraisa, but that's a spirit of the Shabbos thing.
So I'm just saying you can't add to the gzeros.
It's not a gezerah. It was never a gezerah of not Shabbosdik. I don't think it was never a gezerah. It was just
Then what is it?
Every door, every community can what's acceptable to them as not Shabbosdik.
I think that's what it comes down to, is that a lot of this stuff is just, it's not in the spirit of Shabbos. That's what I think a lot of this stuff comes down to.
Oh, yeah, could be.
Well,
Could
that's
be.
because
But anyway,
it's not a gzeira. This isn't a gzeira either. This is a takana.
right.
Not
so
showering the Shabbos is a gzeira. You can't heat up water. It's a gzeira chazal made. This is a takana to make something better.
to make sure the
It
get is
doesn't
better.
need
Well,
it doesn't need the bezdin gadol b'minyan.
that's going to be on Amid Beis, whether this was to make a leniency or to make a stringency. Right?
Yeah, but even if
Well,
it's to make a stringency, it's the point of it was not to take away something. It's to add something.
Right.
Gzeira is
Right.
to take away. A takana is to add.
Yeah.
This, even if it's the chumrah, it's to add.
Correct. Okay, so let's see. Right. So, anyways, we're saying here we're talking about that after they learned, after Eretz Yisrael, which basically knocks out every kasha. You can't ask any kashas on Rabbah. You say, oh, this is the price of the kasha. That's after they became educated. Right? There's nothing to ask. There's nothing to ask. Right. Okay. Right. It's exactly what the Gemara says. If that's the case, so then even if the guy could talk, right? We're saying that when the guy can't talk, right? So since he can't talk, we're going to allow the get because people are educated. Okay, so if people are educated, so then let's stop saying v'fanei nechta. So when it says no, we're afraid they're going to become back to being uneducated in chutz la'aretz. How do we know they're not going to go back to being uneducated? Right?
What's the kasha of the Gemara? We just said Rabbah holds like Rava.
Right.
So if people don't travel, you still have to say b'fanei nechta, even if people know. Who cares?
That's sort of the Gemara's kasha on number base. Sort of the Gemara's kasha on number base. But
that's in general. I'm asking this particular kasha.
Yeah, but that's to confirm the get. We have a confirmation here. You have Adim. You have Adim confirming the signature. Right? The reason why you have people trying back and forth is to confirm the signature, so that you have. Right? You know what we have this Shema Yachsav Davar Kuloi totally off subject. If showering wasn't, is Hanukkah. L'chayra we should light outside in America. Many people say in America it's safe. Why shouldn't we light the menorah outside? But now Shema Yachsav Kuloi. We don't want to do it because perhaps, and you see now it's unfortunately, but it's going back to Lukul Kuloi. It's going back to Lukul Kuloi. Right, but many people, there are people that want to.
I light outside.
Light the menorah outside. What? You light outside?
Yeah.
Okay, so but the Shema Davar, the Yachsa, the Davar Lukul Kuloi.
Yeah, because you're not interested in getting a gun permit, right? Because you just feel so safe, so you'll light outside.
Oh, Peretz is saying good. Yeah. Okay. Weiter.
I'm coming to light on your porch.
Peretz lights menorah every day on his porch with his barbecues. Yeah, so then so if that's the case, so then Eino Yochel also. Maybe it's going to go back to the kilkel. How can you allow a get when the guy doesn't say Fanei Nechta? So my answer is Pikeach ben Escharish Milsa de Shchicha. This is also a major rule in Takanas Chachamim. A Pikeach, what are you worried about? A guy who's going to be he's going to go mute in middle of saying over Fanei Nechta. It's a Milsa de Shchicha. It's not common. Milsa de Shchicha goes around, and we don't make a Gezeir de Rabbanan on a Milsa de Shchicha. I'm not thinking of any examples right now, but it comes up fairly often that we say, how come the Chacham made a Gezeira here and not over here? Because here it was not Shchiach. So since it wasn't Shchiach, they didn't make it. So Gemara says, what about a woman? A woman being her own Shliach for her get is not a common case, right? Most men don't say to a woman in Chutz La'aretz, here's your to their wives, here's your get, bring it to the Bezdin in Eretz Yisrael, then it becomes your get. So she's her own shliach. But Tanan ha'ishish atzma mavia gita, a woman can be the one to bring her own get. But she has to say v'fanei. So you see, that's an oddball case. And the Chachamim said you still have to say v'fanei.
Is she her own she her own shliach? I'm just curious. Is she her own shliach in that case, or she's just? How does she do that? I mean, she can't be her own shliach in the case because she can't do an asida to herself.
She is her husband's shliach.
How is she doing the nesina?
What?
From one hand to another?
I guess. I think she's giving it to the bezdin.
Who's giving it to her?
I don't know. Rashi said, she brings it till bezdin plaini b'toira shlichus, and then I guess the bezdin gives it to the bezdin. Maybe the bezdin gives it back to her.
Maybe that's why it's not shliach. Maybe that's why it's not shliach, because it's not really.
I'm saying that the din of get requires an nesina, and unless you count the Baal's nesina originally, who's doing the nesina?
Right. So Rashi has a kasha, but a little bit different than yours, because Rashi says when he gives her the get, it's her get.
Okay, so he delayed the nesina, but I'm just saying to say she's doing it is saying that somehow she's doing it to herself, which I don't know the mitzvah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's a fair kasha. It's a fair kasha. Okay, good. So if that's the case, then
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If we're going to talk about all these things, then isn't it what I understand? The guy just throws it into a yard, and she's divorced. So what are we hacking a cup when the Nechtam and Shlichim and Bezdin and 44 people in front of Bezdin and everything? Big deal. He just threw it to her, and she's divorced, and that's it.
Oh, so we have to wait for those cases, but
we have to wait for that. Okay, fine.
Yeah, fine. We have to, but I think those cases we're talking about where he could be, they said somebody said there the chiddush is that her yard is an extension of her hand.
Yeah. So.
Right, but there could be. I think they still need the people there to whatever aid him you see. I think he can't just walk by her yard and throw it. He has to meet the other requirements too. Just yard also works, I think. So I think what it says Iyachi Bal Nami. So if that's the case, so then the Baal should also have to say b'fanei, right? Exactly what you asked me about. You can't just drop the get into the yard. Allah matanya hu atzma shehevi gita. Let's say he himself brings the get. Ein tzarich loymar b'fanei. He doesn't have to say it, right? So Gemara's answers, well, time of my own rabbanan tzarich loymar b'fanei. Why do you have to say b'fanei? The whole reason you're saying is because we're afraid the husband's going to come and say, "Hey, I never divorced her. This is a scam get." Right? But here he has the get in his hand, and he's gonna complain that it wasn't him. No, it's not. That's never gonna fly. He's gonna say this get is not my get. You're giving her the get, for goodness sake. It has to be that it's your get. So therefore, that would not be a concern. Okay, now the Gemara repeats itself. Tashema with a different kasha. Tashema, another kasha on Rabbah. Shmuel has the kasha on Rahuna. Shnayim sheviu get from Medina Sayam. Two people bring a get from Medina Sayam. Tzrichen sheyam v'fanenu nechtam v'fanenu nechtam. They need to write that it was signed in front of us and sealed in front of us. I ain't tzrichen, or do they not say it? Meaning this is two edim, two shluchim, which means they act as edim. Amalei ain't tzrichen. They don't need it. Uma ilu yam v'fanenu garsha. Right, because what would you say if two Adam come and say we saw her get divorced? Milai mehemna, wouldn't they be believed? So of course, when they bring the get, they're clearly saying that this is a legitimate get. So the Rabba Nich, according to Rabba, it's good. This makes sense because the whole what are we busy with? Making sure that the get is legitimate. So we have two Adam. We said that's enough to make it legitimate. But the Rabba, Kasha, according to Rabba, it's a kasha, because how do we know? We still don't know it was written l'shma. Somebody has to tell us that it was written for her, right? We could confirm it's a legitimate get, but how do you know that it was written for her specifically? That we don't know.
Why is Sigmar asking from a kasha that Shmuel asked Rav Huna? That's a kasha and Rava.
They said no, it's a brisa. Isn't this a brisa?
The boy minei Shmuel Rav Huna shnayim shebiu gavim didasiyam. It's a question they're asking, and they're assuming the pshitas this is the din, but I don't know. I guess according to Rabbi, it wouldn't be the din.
I thought
it be so simple to say that.
Yeah, I hear, but I thought the brisa taught me. I was learning it the more. Maybe you should have said ba minei Shmuel Rav Huna toshema. That's why I was understanding.
But he literally answers Amar Le Ein Tzrichen. It's mamash a back and forth. It's the question answer.
Yeah, I hear. I hear. All right, it's a good order. It's a good order. So whatever it is, but it's a kash on Rabbah. So it's regardless of the same territory. I'm asking Allah Shalom. Like we said, you can answer any kasha on Rabbah by just saying it's talking about after they became educated in Chutz La'aretz. Okay, Yihachi Chad Nami. So if that's the case and they already became educated in Chutz La'aretz, then even one agent also doesn't have to say upon another. So my answer is no. How do you know? Maybe they're going to go back to being uneducated in Chutz La'aretz. Okay, Yihachi Beitrei Nami. So then two also. Why? We're saying that two Eidim, two Shluchim don't need to say upon another. Right? Because they're educated in Chutz La'aretz, so then why are we concerned that it's going to go back to being uneducated? So Beitrei, the Maisi Gittin, Milsa de Leishchicha. Two people bringing a get is not common. And something that's not shliach, the Rabbanan didn't make a gzeira. Well, they didn't. Same kash as before. A woman being her own shliach is not common. But a woman can be her own agent to bring her get, meaning she's her husband's agent to bring the get for herself. But she has to say so that's an uncommon case, and you see she has to say so my answer we don't want to make a difference in the shlichus. I mean, you won't want to say, oh, this type of shlichus, yeah, this type of shlichus not. So they just said anytime it's the shliach, they need to say okay, so bal nami. So if the husband becomes his own shliach, he also should also have to say Allah Matanya, who if he himself brings his own get, so my answer is time of my Omer Rabban and Sarah Plemer Panenachtam. Why do you have to say Panenachtam? Dilma Asi Palma Aru Pasale. Maybe the Baal is going to come and say it's puzzle. Hashta Minkat Nakale Biyade. And here he's holding on to the get Ure Kama Arale, and he's going to be Ma'arid. That's not going to happen. So that's why even if it does happen, nobody's going to believe him. So therefore, the husband brings his own get to Bezdin, or to her, he does not have to say b'fanei nechta. Okay, third question. Tashama, maybe get Medina Sayyam b'nasnula. Guy brings a get from Medina Sayyam and he gives it to his wife. Well, no longer his wife. But lo yamar lo b'fanei nechta, and he didn't tell her b'fanei nechta. So in this of kosher, if they verified the signatures, then it's kosher. And if not, it's possible. Right, so what do we see from this? That the fanei is not supposed to be a chumrah. It's supposed to be a kula for her. Right? Meaning the reason why they said that he should say fanei is that means she doesn't have to go looking around for Adam to confirm the get. Right? So that's why you say before, we gave an easy way out. The guy brings a get, we say, oh, you need to confirm it, just like you have to confirm every other shtar. So we said, okay, but we don't want to have to do that, so we're going to say b'fanei nechtam. We're going to say b'fanei nechtam works. Okay, but if he didn't do it, then you use the Adam mashma that you don't need the Adam. Meaning you don't definitively need the Adam, you only need the Adam if you don't have fanei nechtam. So that means the fanei nechtam is the leniency. So then the thing is, the Rabbah nicha, to Rabbah it's a kasha, the Rabbah it's good, right? Because you see the whole thing is a confirmation, and the Rabbah kasha, but according to Rabbah it's a kasha, because we don't know that it's lishma. So when I ask the same teretz, we're talking about after they already became educated in Chutz La'aretz. But didn't you say that the thing is going back? We're afraid that it may go back to Kukula. So when answers, no, the Kishanisis. We're talking about where she already got married, or at least engaged. Yeah. So Mamela, since she became engaged, since she's already engaged, and the guy didn't say, but we're not going to say that the marriage is no good. Right? But by the way, Rashi here calls it a gezerah. Right? So, meaning we're talking about a case where she already was engaged, and we say, hey, 1 second, did the husband say b'fanei nechtam? And we say, oh no, he didn't.
No.
Okay. What?
It's a new gzeira. It's a new gzeira. Shema Yatzer Davel Kakula is the gzeira. The original Bafana is a takana. That's why it's lahaka v'leilahach.
But it says hagzeira loy mafkina mine. Which
Yeah,
gezeira?
gzeira shemi yachzer dovel kakuloi. That we're not going to take away a marriage from.
Oh, you're saying that's the gezeira?
Yeah, that the Gemara calls it gzeira. It's a new gzeira though. V'amr is gzeira shemi yachzer dovel kakuloi.
I hear. See, okay, you're right. I think you're right. Yeah, okay. So they're going to say, right? What are you saying? That the reason is that is not coming to be machmer, it's coming to be mekel, right? But that's not what's going on here. The reason why we're being mekel is because she was already engaged, right? It's not because we're trying to use it as a kula. So Gemara answers, why don't we be machmer on her and make her go out, meaning make her get divorced? No, we're not going to make her get divorced because the whole point of is to make it easier for her, right? And okay, but if he couldn't do it, so then you're going to have to go and use Adim instead. Right? Fine. So Gemara says on Hamad Beis now, time of Mai, what's the reason? Right? Dilma Asi Balma Aru Pasale. Maybe the husband's going to come and pasal it. So Hashta Baal Loika Ma'ar. If the husband is not saying anything on non negam and arale, we're going to come say that the get is no good. Again, we're talking about a case where the husband brought the get. He just didn't say nechta, right? So he didn't do it. That's not going to be an issue because since he's the one that brought the get, that eliminates the whole issue, right? Fine. Okay, so then the Gemara is finished with asking kashas on Rabbah. Fine. So then the Gemara says, "Plug to the Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Shua ben Levi." It seems like the machlokes Rabbah and Rabbah. 2 days ago we were saying the machlokes Rabbah and Rabbah is the same as machlokes Tanoim. Here we're saying that this machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shua ben Levi is the same as machlokes Rabbah and Rabbah. Chad Amar lefi she'ein bekiyin lishma. One says the reason why you have to say v'fanei nechtam is because people are not bekiyin. Chad Amar lefi she'ein edim mitzuyin l'kaimoi. And one says because edim are not around to be mekayim. Right, so that's what. So it's Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Shua ben Levi. So it says to stayim the Rabbi Shua ben Levi who Amar lefi she'ein bekiyin lishma. Let's say that it's Rabbi Shua ben Levi who's the one that says that the reason why you need to say v'fanei nechtam is because they're not bekiyin lishma. The Rabbi Shimon bar Abba, I see Gita l'kamed Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Rabbi Shimon bar Abba brought a get from Medina Sayyam in front of Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Amar lei, and he said to him, "Trichna l'meimer v'fanei nechtam." Do you need to say v'fanei nechtam or not? So Amar lei, like trichas, you don't need to say it. Yeah, lo yamru because ela b'daris arishonim she'en bekiyin lishma. Why don't you have to say it? Because when they said that you have to say v'fanei nechtam, that's talking about the previous dairas that they didn't know the halacha. B'daris ha'achrayim the bekiyin lishma, but in the later generations that the bekiyin lishma, that's not an issue, right? So you see clearly that Rabbi Shua ben Levi is the one that says that it has to do with lishma. So to stayim, that's a proof. Finding well, ask what are you saying? Rabbah holds of Rabbah, right? That's what we said at the end of the previous daf. Rabbah holds of Rabbah, meaning that we have to be worried about Adam traveling back and forth. In addition, he holds it as a lishma, right? So what are you saying that this is a proof, right? It still doesn't help, right? Meaning you can't say that he only holds one, he has to hold both. Didn't we say that perhaps it's going to go back to kukula, right? And that's why we make Adam say even though nowadays Chutz La'aretz is educated. So what happened to that? How can Rabbi Shua ben Levi just do away with that and say, oh, we don't have to say it anymore? So that can't be the pshat. He had somebody else with him, meaning so there were two shluchim. And the reason why it didn't say that there was another aid there, another aid slash shliach there, because it's covered over Reb Shimon, because he wasn't the second aid. The second aid was not the same levels of Shimon bar Abba. So the Gemara didn't want to say that he came in front of Rabbi Shua ben Levi with two aidim, right? You can't. The aid is not on the same. That aid was not on the same level. So it was a pagam to write it. So the reason why Rabbi Shua ben Levi said you don't need a funny nothing is because, like we said, when there's aidim, you don't need to say funny nothing because the aidim, meaning when it's two, you don't need it because the two are an automatic get confirmation. Right? This comes up a little bit. I know this is going to sound strange, but I once heard this from a chashuva person who was telling people, like, when you call up Eidei Kedushin by a chasana, so Eidei Ksuba, so each one signs, they don't have to be together. But Eid Kedushin under a chuppah, you don't call up a Rosh Hashiva and some whatever, a regular guy, meaning you either take two regular guys or two Rosh Hashivas or Rosh Hashiva and a Rav. I don't know, that's what he was telling. You don't bring up, an 18-year-old guy, friend of the Chassan, and the Kala gets a big Rosh Hashiva, right? Like, I'm saying, he was saying it just doesn't. This Gemara L'chaira is a proof to him, because what's the big deal if Rav Shimon bar Abba was an aid on a get to bring a get from Chutz La'aretz with somebody who, and it pasnish to say who the other aid was, right? What's the big deal? Elamai, it's a pagam. It is a pagam.
Tiago is a begam for him to be an aid, or is a begam to mention. The Gemara doesn't mention it, but vice does. They sent the other person as another aid to do it. It was done. So they didn't mention him because he was a chashuv person. This person wasn't chashuv, so the person wasn't mentioned. But to do it, are you allowed to or not? The Gemara doesn't really discuss it. The Gemara discusses whether we should mention him in the Gemara or not.
Why can't you mention him?
Because he wasn't chashuv. You don't mention non-chashuv people in the Gemara. Stop.
Right, so
you don't mention him next to another person that's chashuv.
So if he's not mentioning him because it's a little shtickle pagam, that's what Tzviak is saying.
Right. So
it doesn't mean he can't
saying
do
that
it, but don't post the pictures in the 5-town Jewish Times.
Or you can even post the pictures. Just don't call them up. Let them know beforehand when to come up and vizahu. Just don't
to say that a person can't be with him, I don't know if the Gemara's not mashma one way or another whether you could be with him or not. If anything, the fact that he was with him is proof that you could be with him, and he went with him, and he delivered the get.
Okay, so you're saying if you don't announce the names of the Eid Kedushin, so then you're okay. That's what you're saying, Akiva?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay, could be Akiva's right.
And maybe you don't want to do that either, because then you're insulting that person.
Especially Akiva, especially everybody's looking at their phones anyways, the whole chuppah. So nobody's paying any attention. The only thing is they hear is the name, right? So you're right. I think you're 100% right. Yeah. Remember the days of the chasana?
Well, they look for a second to see who's they look for a second who's going up.
Nah, they hear only because they hear the name.
Just for 1 second. Just for 1 second.
David, half the people never even look up. Tzviakov's right.
You remember the old days when if they had a chasana about a Super Bowl, you hope that the guy in the bathroom had a TV. You know what I mean? You go in there. Nowadays, nobody stares them going to a chasana to the Super Bowl. You go. Everybody's gonna be watching the Super Bowl by your chasana shine by the commercials. They'll dance.
Forget about chasanas. Forget about anything. They watch this stuff while they're driving. There's.
All right, right.
Oh, thank you, Zebi. Thank you.
We love you, Shimon. Don't worry.
I love you more,
Zev, what's the big deal? Nowadays, everyone has self-drive. You don't have a Tesla yet, Zev? Darcy hasn't bought you one yet.
I'm waiting for you to donate.
Oh,
now I know my money's going to a good cause.
If they would have Chinese auctions, then they probably would have a Tesla going in one of the prizes. All right. Anyways, okay, Itmar. Yataka, that reminds me, going back to the Musar by Lashon Hara. So a guy texted me today that his brother won a lot of money last night in the Chinese auction. So he wants to know if it's right to go tell people that his brother won money in the Chinese auction, or is it ayin hara?
No.
I said to him, it's not. You're not allowed to do that inside the Gemara B'Onsia. No, that you can't tell somebody. Doesn't the Chafetz Chaim say you're not supposed to tell people so that people won't go to them and schnorr money from him?
Besides for that, it's rechilus, like we just learned. It's a right. Nobody's business. Nothing.
Don't Ura publish the winners?
I don't know. When they get published, all of the same. Everybody's looking at their phones. They're not looking at the
Hello,
public.
just because they publish it doesn't mean. I mean, the truth is, he didn't have to go around telling.
Right. Right. Okay. Once
But
it's
that might be
published,
Vape class, no? At that point, if they publish it.
Yeah, once they publish it,
that's
it's a
right. So
different
that's the thing. Right. So that's yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
There's
let's do
actually somebody who won something. I never met a person that won anything.
I didn't meet him either, but his brother texted me. So if you want, I could forward you the number if you want. Akiva.
Is
Let
this
me know-
nervous
let me-
one or nervous two?
Let me know who it is. I'll
True.
get a test.
True.
I'll get a
Well,
test.
Akiva, when you talking about Darche, who, where, or in general?
No, in general.
We
No,
don't
no.
know.
This isn't a. This isn't a
Okay,
rip
so
on
I
thing.
I
This is
won
in
when
general.
Leia and Zev became cousin and Kala.
1962.
That week they raffled off George Washington's horse. Yeah, but that week they raffled off. That's when they started the mikveh, when they built the mikveh, and I won, split the pot. Yeah, I won.
3 dippings for life.
Wow, I haven't heard about phone place in a long time.
Yeah. Very good.
Go, Parrots, very good.
No, Parrots,
I
that
don't
I
get
only
it
won.
here, Parrots.
My phone place, I only won $10. That's something else.
That in ratio, that was a lot more money. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, weiter. Yeah, so Itmar. Yeah, but how many Adim do you need? How many people do you have to give the get to the woman? You have to give it in front of 2. You have to give it on 3. Right? So we had this Gemara quoted before. To Stayim, the Rabbi Yochanan who dam b'fnei Shnayim. Let's say it's Rabbi Yochanan who holds it's 2. The Rav and Bar Rav Chisda. I see get the Lakameh Rabbi Yochanan, and he brought a get in front of Rabbi Yochanan, right, from Chutz La'aretz. V'amar lei zil havlo ba'api trei. Rabbi Yochanan said, okay, now go give the get to her in front of 2 people. V'ayim lahu, and say to them, that you know that it was written legit. So you see clearly, Testayim, it's definite that Rabbi Yochanan is the one that holds that you need to give the get over in front of 2. Okay, fine. So what's the machlokes, whether it's 2 or 3? The one who says you have to give the get over in front of 2, because he holds that they're not Bekiyin Lishma and Chutz La'aretz, right? So therefore you need 2 people to make sure to say that the get is legitimate. Right? But Mandam b'fnei Shlosh, one says 3, because there's no Edim to be Mekayim. Right? And so therefore, what's it called? What is the he said the Shliach? What's he doing? Right? So he needs to say it in front of 3, which is a Bezdin, and that will make it into a definite get. Right? So again, so the one that says 2, it's just because they're not Bekiyin Lishma. So 2 Eidim say it was Bekiyin Lishma. All right? It's a whole Shiloh exactly. Bekiyin Lishma. They're not approving the get, they're just saying it was written Lishma. Okay, but the one that says 3, it needs to become solidified as a real get, and that you need a Bezdin of 3. So the Gemara asks, Muhammad Yehuda ben Levi Omar Vishem Bekiyin Lishma. Right? But we said that Rabbi Shimon ben Levi says they're not Bekiyin Lishma. Rabbi Yochanan Omar Vishem Eidim Mitzvim L'Kaima, and Rabbi Yochanan says Shein Mitzvim L'Kaima. V'Hacha Heichi Kamer Rabbi Yochanan. So how could Rabbi Yochanan say B'fnei Shnayim? How could he say 2? Right? If the reason why we said that Rabbi Yochanan holds is because there aren't Eidim around to be Mekayim it, he should need 3. And another thing is we said Rabbah holds a Rabbah. Right? So meaning Lafi, you always have to be concerned. When would you ever allow 2? It should always have to be 3. Right? So the Gemara answers Ella. So the Gemara doesn't like that. That's the pshan. The machlok is why you need 2 or 3. Everybody holds that you need to say because we may not necessarily find Eidim to approve the shtar. The whole thing is, can the shliach become an aid? Can the shliach become an aid? Right? And an aid becomes a dayan. The one that says you have to give it over in front of 2 because of a shliach nasa aid. He holds that the shliach himself can be an aid, and then the aid can go and become a dayan. The aid nasa dayan. Right? So therefore, you only need two, because you have the aid and the shliach, and then the aid, and then the aid becomes the dayan. The shliach can become an aid, but aid not the dayan. But an aid cannot become a dayan. So therefore, you're going to need to have three. So Mara says, okay, but the aid not the dayan. But we say by the rabbanon, we say that an aid can become a dayan, right? So that's pretty poshut that here we're talking about the rabbanon, right? It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah you have to write in the gap that's a derabbanon. So why shouldn't an aid become a dayan? Okay, so on to another pshat. The marsav are keeping the isha ksheira lahavi as a get. Since a woman is kosher to bring a get, simnin the ma'isila it's besamchila. So maybe sometimes a woman will bring the get, and then we're going to be saimach on her to be a dayan. Well, we might make a mistake, and we always use the shliach as one of the dayanim, right? So they might say, okay, so let's use the woman as a dayan. Now we know that a woman cannot be a dayan, right? The idach and the other sheet that says isha made the yadav v'loy samchela. Everybody knows that a woman is not a dayan, right? So therefore, we're not worried that they're going to make her. We're not worried that anybody's going to make that mistake.
Why can't you become a dayan? Yael was a shayfet. Why can't the woman become a dayan?
I don't know. Nowadays, you have Supreme Court judges that are women.
You can't bring a bride from the Supreme Court because they don't know anything. So let's stick to the daf,
Yeah, but that's not on the daf either.
Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, but you can't bring a wife from the Supreme Court,
True. So I mean, it's a whole ASIC exactly why it is. I don't remember.
I used to call up Shiloh. I used to call a Shiloh up to your father. Your mother would answer the Shiloh. It's like very often a Rebbe knows all these Shilohs and shoes. So I always say, okay, well, the Rebbe shouldn't say nothing.
Right, but that's not right. But that's not paskening. That's just yeah. But that's not. Also, by the way, there is a sheet of the Rush. I started looking into this mamash right before the daf, and then and I ran out of time. But there's a shita that says that she couldn't paskin. She had to tell it over to men what she thought, and the men would paskin it. Right?
She didn't sit on Sanhedrin. I'm saying she wasn't judging capital punishment cases, was she?
No, I don't know. Yeah, but okay, there's a lot of tumult over there exactly why that works or doesn't work. Fine. Maybe get Medina Sayyam, a guy brings a get from Medina Sayyam and doesn't say Mamzer. He goes out, they get divorced, and if they had a kid, the vlad is a mamzer. That's major. That's a major chumrah. Right? They gave the get. She had a get. The guy just didn't say the kid's a mamzer.
What's the svara?
Let's see. The chumrah ain't a vlad mamzer. Chumrah say the vlad's not a mamzer. Right? Ketza yaseh. Right. So what should he do if he forgot to say the he should take it from her. Go back and give it in front of two. And then he should say it again. Yeah. So now it's that you have to. Why can't he just say it then after? Right. It's clearly mashma from this Gemara. Tyson says it's clearly mashma from this Gemara that's not enough. That you have to give it right before or within Toikadei Dibur.
I don't understand. If a child was born, so then how does it help that if he took it back?
No. We're talking about. Well, it won't help for the previous child, but it'll help for the future.
Because
according to Chachamim, yeah.
No, but according to Rameir, Rameir doesn't work anyways.
Rameir doesn't work at all.
Rameir doesn't work.
No,
it says ain't a blood mamzer.
No, so that's not a mamzer, but you want her to be divorced properly. So do it again.
So I don't understand. What do you mean? So it's not a good divorce. So according to the Chum, the kid should be a
It is a
mamzer.
good divorce. You just weren't Mekayim the Takanas
Good
Chazal.
divorce.
You
You
have
didn't
to be
do it- you
Mekayim
didn't
the
do it
Takanas
like-
Chazal.
So then why?
We want you to do it again to do it properly. That's all.
And if you don't, what the kid's a
The kid's still
mamzer?
not going to be a mamzer. But the kid's not a mamzer. No.
So then what does it make a difference if I do it or not?
Because you want to do it right.
You were over what the Chacham told you to do. That the Gemara is
Right.
about to say, "Kol Meshanim Mat Me'esh Tova Chacham Gittin." The Rabbanim were misakin that your Vlad's gonna be a mamzer, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's what it is. We want that. We want you to do it the way the Chachamim said. Right?
So what do you have, a mamzer d'Rabbanan?
That's what comes out.
No, it's a Mamza Deraisa.
Well, it's
Halam
it's 1 second. Let's see the next line. So the Gemara says, they have to get divorced, and the Vad is a mamzer. Is a derabanan, right? So the Gemara says, in Rameir l'tamei, Damar Rav Hamnuna Mishmei De'ula, Aimer Hay Rameir, Kol Meshanim and Matbeah Shetavu Chacham Begin. Anybody who changes literally means from the coin that they made, but it means from the how do you say it? From the version, the way the Chachamim wanted the get to be done. If you mashana from that, Yoitziva Vlad Mamzer, you go out and the Vlad is a Mamzer, right? Now it's a big tumult. It's what?
The template.
Okay, template. There you go. It's a template. That's a good word, right? So now how can you say that this is a Mamzer Midaraisa? Very difficult. To say good, you're saying Kol HaMakadosh Adas the Rabbanan, meaning everything has to go according to the Rabbanan. But at the end of the day, he gave a get from the Torah. The get is a good get.
Oh, that's why you were trying to say Kol Megarish, and that's the Rabbanim Megarish also.
Okay, whatever it is, I'm saying it's a big tumult. Whether this guy's considered a Mamzer the Rabbanan.
They bring down the Taisus in Daf Lamed, Daf Ayin Tes, I think. That speaks about whether it's a Vlad and Derais or Rabbanan, according to Rameir.
Yeah, so it's a tumult of exactly if it is or it's not. Should we start the next Gemaras? No, it's the new sugya. Okay, so we'll stop over here. The Olam should have themselves a fine night.